Well, when my youngest of my 3 sons was about 8 years old, he asked me very seriously one day, "Mom, did you ever want any girl babies?" And I flippantly answered, "Yeah, I wanted 3 of them." And I don't know if that scarred him for life, but he does remember that conversation. And I think there was some truth in that humor, because I had always imagined myself to be mother of girls, to do all the fun things that I used to do with my mother. For the first 9 years of my life, I was an only child and close to both my parents, but my mother spent a lot of time with me. And I think it was really during that time that she really sparked my creativity and my artistic bent that I still have. I was always an indoor child. I did not like to go outdoors. I also never played sports and never wanted to watch sports. Nobody in my family watched sports or played it. So, well, I shouldn't say that. My sister came along and she liked sports. So bless my father's heart, sometimes he would give me a pair of ice skates or a basketball too, and I would throw them in my closet where they remained. So fast forward to 1989, when I married my husband, Tony. And we decided that we'd like to have 3 children, and we were very blessed with 3 sons, who I couldn't have loved more if they had been girls. But I always felt like I was very naive, and I did not know how different a household of 3 boys would be from a household of 2 girls. I did not know that boys would walk by their brothers and just swat them for no reason. I didn't know that boys could play outdoors all day long. I did not know that boys loved to play in dirt and mud and track it in your house. I didn't know that they would be outside building forts and playing ball. And I really didn't have any idea how much I would learn from them about bodily functions as I drove them around in my car. And I really had no idea how much trouble they could get into, but I did find out. When my second son was little, I always told people I really should have a direct line to poison control, because he puts everything in his mouth, usually encouraged by his older brother. And then there was the jumping. Who knew that boys would jump over the porch railing instead of using the stairs like everyone else? Or who knew that after a snowfall, and there were big mounds of snow, that somebody would think it would be okay to climb out onto the roof and jump into the snow. Not me. So remember I said I didn't like sports. Well, I raised 3 boys who all played sports. And over the years, I learned to enjoy soccer and baseball and basketball and even track. But there's one sport that I still detest to this day, and that's football. I can't stand the clink of helmets. I can't stand to see piles of bodies on the field. And the brute force just does not appeal to me at all. Well, when my oldest son was about 10, my husband took him to the high school football game at night. I was perfectly content to be at home with the other 2 in my pajamas. About the time that they were expected home, there was a knock on the door. It was a very kind woman there to tell me that Caleb had broken his collarbone while playing football behind the bleachers while my husband was watching the game. So that was my first trip to the emergency room, not my last. But the next time that I remember was taking the boys to do school shopping. And we had gone over to Burlington, which we like to do, day trip to Burlington. And they had a new Kohl's store. And I sent the 2 older ones into the dressing room. And Colby and I were still looking around. And all of a sudden I hear, sounds that you shouldn't hear. in a dressing room. And I go in to find that they've been roughhousing, and Ben was trying to kick Caleb underneath the door of the dressing room, and he now had a deep gash underneath his knee. I, to this day, don't really remember how I got to customer service. If I sent my other son to customer, I don't know. I just remember that we did get some gauze from customer service, enough to wrap him up so I could take him to the urgent care down the street where he had to have stitches. That was not fun. But the incident that we all reminisce about when we talk about the good old days in my family is when my youngest son, Colby, decided he wanted to be a stuntman. So I was inside the house, as I normally was, when I hear a commotion outside, which was never a good sign. But I went out to the porch just in time to see Colby, for what I was to find out was the third time, ride his bike up a plywood ramp, onto a wooden chaise lounge, across the chaise lounge and up the back of the chaise lounge, and attempt to land on the plywood that was on the other side. Now, I don't know if it's because it was the third time he was doing it or whatever, the plywood gave way and he slammed to the ground on his bicycle and couldn't breathe. So his brothers are on the porch howling with laughter. One of them is actually filming this escapade. I couldn't jump over the railing, so I had to walk down the stairs and out to where he was laying down on the ground. And by the time I got to him, luckily he was breathing. But for the next few minutes, he kept complaining about how sore his chest was. So, of course, I bundled him in the car. We went to the emergency room to get checked out. And I brought the video camera with me because I didn't have any idea how I was going to explain this to anybody. And we happened to have a very unfriendly, unresponsive doctor attending us. And I think she was a little more concerned that I had a videotape of this incident than she was concerned about my son's health. But to commemorate it, the boys actually made a still photo, which my husband has hanging in his office today. Boys will be boys, right? So even though I found the world of boys terrifying at times, I think I found my place in it. Yeah. And I know that the boys and I have wonderful memories that we share. And today there are 3 young adult men who I admire and I adore, and I'm so happy that they still like to spend time with me. So what more can I ask for? Well, I'm still waiting for those 3 daughters in law.